I can see many people benefiting from this.
I'll get, if I can get a soft copy of your notes later, I can tag it on here so the future people.
Great. They can have a digital experience.
Yeah. Or full digital.
I don't think we have these ones though. I'm not sure how we'll.
You can do a text capture.
Oh.
Stuff.
All right. Well, let's do weddings and pastoring people at weddings. And again, I think my favorite moment of this, and I hope it comes through, is the opportunity to connect with people that have had a bad experience with church, no experience with church, and to have the opportunity to just shine for Jesus in leading it. That's my heart priority for sure. In Edmonton, we had so many people when I pastored there, so many people that came to Christ, And so they were all living together. Do you know that in one summer, I did 18 weddings? Sometimes 2 every Saturday, sometimes 3. And anyway, it's all a blur to me now, obviously, because we had multiple services. We didn't have a Saturday night service. We had 2 Sunday mornings and a Sunday evening service. But, the big opportunity is where else can you reveal Jesus to people that aren't usually in church, And again, I think Pastor John usually referred to, it's not so much what we say in our teaching time as the way we handle people, the way we treat people. They're expecting, maybe, from many of them, if they've come from a denominational background, a clergy to do the ritual. And when they get someone that cares about those who are being married and relates warmly to those in the room, it can just change their concept of what faith in Jesus is about, So I really love that part of it. And your role, like I say, are you an officiant or of a wedding, or preparing people for their marriage? And the range of you can get people who are following Jesus, casual attenders, people don't attend, non-Christians, divorced with adequate level of resolution. And there's a huge difference between that and divorce with unresolved issues, because you're basically participating in something that doesn't have statistically much of a future. If they're trying to get remarried, the second or third time without having resolved issues from the previous relationships. Same-sex requests, other. So your response. Now, this is tough. Because what do you do when people come up to you and you don't even think that they should be getting married, and they say, Pastor, look at my ring. We just got engaged. You exercise a gift that I do not have. It's called the gift of fake. But I've learned to do this. Especially if they put you on the spot. And we want you to do our wedding. Okay. Listen. We're gonna meet to discuss this. I hope I don't sound as flabbergasted as I do right now in the moment, but we are looking forward to. Listen, let's schedule a meeting as soon as I can get those words out of my mouth. Let's schedule a meeting. I want to sit down and discuss you, because, and if they need a little more backfilling, I'll say, because for me as a pastor, it's so much more about your marriage than just doing a wedding. And, so if I don't get that out there, I certainly get it in the initial meeting. That's foundational to everything I do. I'm a pastor and called by Jesus to do what he wants done for people. And that involves making sure that I help people get ready for a marriage and not just for a wedding. I get that across. And that I'm not an official. But they can go to Justice of the Peace and I've said that dozens of times and have that. But if they're asking for a church wedding, there's a whole lot more involved in it, because we're not there to do a ceremony. We're there to help them get off to a good start in their future together. And so there's lots of good ways you can say it, but I really put that sober pause in there. This is important, you know. We're party to a covenant, right? And to people's future together. And I remember thinking, Edmonton, this just comes to me now. I remember telling my wife, no wedding that I'll officiate and prepare them for will ever get a divorce. And then ended up, two couples in the church ended up divorcing and getting married. Now I did a lot of weddings, like I say, but still, I remember just being so devastated that you prepare them, you do all you can, and they're still going to do that on you, you know. So there's two things, because you're a pastor and you're not just officiating clergy, there's two foundational commitments. One's a lifelong covenant and an approved marriage preparation course. And Pastor Jessica, I asked you, and I already forgot, Prepare, Enrich. Yeah, which started in Edmonton way back when I was there. And I'm sure they've changed it over the years. But you know what if you're listening on the video, the genius of that is it highlights areas to discuss that you might find awkward to discuss. It just sort of surfaces. In the test, with your input, it shows that you guys really need to work more on this, you know, and that gives you a chance to suggest books or reading information on. And there's a lot of good marriage preparation material, and you'll find what's best for the time that you're involved in it. Other areas to discuss, their spiritual journey. I mean, that's my favorite question within any conversation. I was just with people up north having out on their boat, and then we came back a couple of days ago, and then my first question when we came back, and then want to have a cup of tea together. Tell me about your spiritual journey. Just love listening. And it's interesting how people, it shows you respect them, but it also reveals so much, because as you listen, you're saying, I wonder if they've even understand the gospel. You know what I mean? You're able to sort of weigh out from listening to them exactly where they're at. Past relationships, again, you'll be pulling that out of your toolkit several times. Listen, I care more about you guys doing well in your future than just doing a wedding. So I'm going to ask about past relationships, because they're pretty significant when it comes to the success of any future relationship. Parental family support. Now, that's not a deal breaker, because there can be good reasons why they don't support. They're not the same ethnic heritage. Happens a lot. They're not from the same religious background, or whatever. I just got a phone call about a month ago from a girl who's she was afraid that if she married this Jewish guy, that she was done, like for heaven, and like the whole thing was over. Her mother had talked to her something. So I said, Jesus wants Jews and Gentiles. He wants everybody to. I said, you get something a lot bigger going on here than if this is what it's coming down to, your decision. I said, what about both of you responding to Jesus? Where are you at? And you've got some serious thinking to do, girl. And she thanked me and she moved on. But I wasn't going to, because she knew better and she wasn't sure and all this. I wasn't helping out a whole lot beyond that, unless she wanted to sort of be real and be honest. Living together. Now, you have to adapt to their level of knowledge. In Edmonton, it was just different. How do I say it? These people had started to follow Jesus, and I would have them live in separate residences. I'd say, you know what? You've got a chance to do a redo here and to do it right. And I would just take, and some of those kids I thought I'd never see again. They just responded to it. They moved back in, one moved back in with the parent or whatever. And it was just, anyway, God was doing something unique in that time and that era. But you have to adapt. Don't lose your opportunity to win someone to the Lord because of your involvement. If they're shooting their best wad, if they're doing the best they can with what they know, adapt to that. They don't know about what God's covenant for marriage is. You have to adapt to that. Lead them to the Lord through this. Be involved in their lives, get involved in their spiritual journey. Now, when they know better, hold them to that. God wants you, the scripture, how God wants you to have the best start possible here. And so what do you think about, being in separate residences until the day? How could that happen? What would that look like? And there's a lot of practical things involved in that, but at least put it out there. But would I get involved and marry off people that are living together? Absolutely. If that's all they know, they need to know Jesus. What did I do a message here a year or so ago where don't expect non-Christians to act like Christians. They don't even know. Church policies, you obviously want to bring that in. Getting a marriage license, it's funny how some people don't even know they're supposed to do that. I guess it's not their not their area of expertise, right? They don't know this. A wedding rehearsal date and other, you can cover those sorts of things. And there's a lot there, I realize, to getting them ready to where you feel they're going to have a successful relationship. I'm not going to be able to get into that today.
Pastor Keith,
yes.
Does the church here do bands as opposed to a marriage license?
No, we haven't. Yeah, it's just another announcement, and who knows them anyway? When you're a large church, and you've seen that probably at Queensway, who knows them anyway, so who's going to be able to affirm the bands?
Right.
Pastor Keith, another thing, I'm sure you do this too. I make it the couple's responsibility to bring the marriage license, so that's
Totally.
that it needs to
Oh,
be.
totally. Yeah, I'll get into that. Yeah, to totally. Yeah, you know me, like leave as much for them as you can. It's like the funeral director, leave as much for them as you can.
This would be important too for the church life team. Pastor Jam was great at it. Claudette was great at it. Sarah just learning where they can direct a couple to find the marriage to get those things. Like a lot of this can be done pre you even meeting with them.
That's right.
And it's a nice little checklist. And if somebody knows it, it's easier to navigate.
Totally. So smaller the venue, the better. Again, it's just more intimate. A lot of people have an emotional attachment to this building, and they want to have it in the auditorium of the chapel. Again, that's wonderful, but scheduling and all these things, especially if it's on a weekend. Weddings are often on a weekend. I've noticed a real trend to Sunday afternoons, in recent years. So it's not an easy time for our staff, So clarify your role, their role, and the church staff. And now you're getting into, see, Pastor, you're reading my notes too. Have them write down their to-do list, license booking, what scriptures they want, contact the media people, the musicians. It's not your job to put the service together for them, kind of thing. So planning the wedding. Now, so here's what I've used for years, and it's probably out of date, but I just know it well enough that do you see the handout I gave? It's called Wedding Ceremony Planning. A lot of things are just obvious just to fill out there. Who their best men, their groomsmen. We'll get into children's involvement in a moment. Ring bearers and flower girls. Anyway, we'll get there. Ushers, number of guests, music. People have over on the other side. Now, be very careful with, here's a good way to say it. If you're working towards wanting to know if the bride has a good relationship with her dad, it's a good way just to sort of family. All right, tell me about your parents. Would your parents be present? And that's usually where I find out that's where it comes out. And it's like coming in the side door as opposed to putting them in an awkward situation. I've even violating my own thing. I'm going to be telling you. See where it says bride's father giveaway? Please do something for me. If you're watching by video, strike out giveaway, because that's got to be one of the most unscriptural statements that ever made its way into any wedding ceremony. I'll have more for you too. So you just think you're blessed now, Steph. You just wait. If not, who? This I used back in Edmonton, so please forgive me my sins. A long time ago. Discuss seating arrangements with ushers. All right, let me say some things here about some people will want a unity candle. It's all right. Communion. Communion. Now you understand that communion, like you're going to have people there don't even know Jesus. And one of the things that you are doing is you're making them feel alienated. Communion was intended by Jesus to be a gathering, a ceremony that took place when the whole church was gathered. That's not happening here. So you are totally right. If you want to honor the Lord in your wedding, that's right on. But I can think of some other better ways to do it. Double ring, you never know. Scripture, songs.
Double ring, so they know.
Oh yeah, double ring. Are each of you going to have a ring for each other?
Groom, bride, ring.
Yeah.
Exchange your rings.
Yeah, but you never know. And sometimes they can't afford it. Yeah, in those 18 weddings, I remember, some very moving stories of people who didn't know a stinking thing about a wedding or God or Jesus, and how other people just came. And remember Patty Katropa, there's the drummer's wife. He came from a rock. He was in a rock band, played big bars in Edmonton, and when they came to know Christ, she was so. I promised Jeff I wouldn't move around, but when I was in the wedding ceremony and I was doing it, I said, "Now you each have a ring for each other," and I knew where the rings had come from, some kindness, but. And I said, "Your rings are beautiful." She was so nervous. She goes, "Lacey," she curtsies down. She goes, "Thank you." Like, I can't do it, but it's more prissy than that. But thank you. But it just they were so spontaneous and so real. And I think Jesus liked that wedding ceremony. All right. Order of service. And again, no, we're still on this handout, eh? Yeah, so I don't, that's why I don't do communion in a wedding unless it's really, really, really highly significant. Candles, okay, there's an order service. It's more of a checklist for you. Again, I wouldn't want to do all these things, but if you do them, make sure you explain them, especially if it's a cultural thing. Indians and East Indians families and who else? Oh, people just sometimes it's a family tradition where they pray they gather and they pray at a wedding, or they go under a canopy or something like this. I always get them to explain it to me, and I explain it in words that the people would understand. We're about to just be part of something pretty special in the service. It's from the cultural tradition of the bride, and this is what it means. And then, but I get it done, as efficiently as possible, kind of a thing.
How long is the ideal wedding ceremony?
I think 25 minutes. Yeah. But again, it depends. Are they going to have congregational singing? Are they going to have, if it's a large wedding party? Now, when I say 25 minutes, that's after the wedding party's up on the up front, because that can vary from.
That can take 25 minutes.
You got it. Yeah. And then your administrative checklist here. Do you notice, Pastor Jesse, you like this? Candelabra, your own arrangements. In other words, if you want it, you make sure you shouldn't have to be out there trying to find a candelabra for someone. Do you know what I'm saying?
Candles, things like
That's the purpose of it.
There's nothing.
No, but but I learned this. You light them the night of the rehearsal so that they light. But I did have one that didn't. It was in Edmonton, one of those weddings. And so you know what I did? I got the thing lit, and I said, "All right, before everybody leave," I said, "what you're about to see is as an illustration of how this couple is going to handle their marriage. When they try something and it just isn't working, they keep at it until they get it to work." And then I had them light it, and then of course everybody's, feeling like everything was done at the wedding, kind of a thing.
You'll sometimes get asked about a sand ceremony instead of that candle thing. That's a trendy now. It's a similar kind of deal.
Yeah.
You
Less.
can't separate the sand.
You can't separate the sand. They intermingle two different colors. It's less lest things go wrong. I did have once where the groom blew out the candle that they had
Oh
just lit.
dear, yeah.
Lit just out of habit, just
Right.
it was just like,
Out of nervousness too,
whoa,
probably. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
we're off to a good start here.
Yeah. Oh dear.
They still married?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh dear, he blew it. All right, be preemptive with children in the wedding party. This is not like tribute makers in a funeral, okay? But because there's ways but again, you have to give the leadership here. Children can be a distraction. They can even be an interference. I've seen too many cases of, dumbed down vows because of children totally distracting. It's the most sacred part, and children are stealing the show. So know the ages. They come when, even at the reception, I always say, have the parents at the rehearsal. Rehearsal. Have the parents at the rehearsal. And then, if the parents need to be walking down the aisle with them to get them going, whatever, have them on standby to do that. I do all those things. Ring bearers are not the best to bear the rings. Best man is best. Ring bearer, have you ever seen a best man down there trying to untangle the knot that some anxious mother put in? Like, she put in 15 knots so that my boy is not going to lose these rings, and then you need the Boy Scout knife at the other end just to get the rings. So always don't put it people, because they're waiting. There's only so many words you can say about rings by the time they're finally up there on the platform. So get the best man to have the rings. But children, watch this. Here's what I do. I say, have the parents at the rehearsal, and you're on standby. You're one responsible. If your kid stalls or cries or doesn't want to be part of this anymore, then you just go up and reassure them, walk them the aisle, and have someone they're comfortable to sit with at the other end.
Yeah.
Their job, kids are good at this. You say, walk down the aisle and then go find Aunt Steph, walk down, they'll find Aunt Steph. And then their Aunt Steph's responsible to keep that kid well behaved. And who could be better?
Give Aunt Steph their favorite candy.
There you go.
Yeah,
All right.
that's a good idea.
The other thing I've done is I put a tuning where the child needs to stand, if they have to stand up there, and I tell them, if you stand on this tuning, like the end of the service, it's your tuning. They'll stand there.
Okay.
Very nice.
Well, I've had some energetic little boys. I don't think $2,000 would have made them stay still. Yeah. But I love just getting them sit with their parents. And if you just sort of say that's the way it is at rehearsal, then I've never had anybody say, why are you doing that? But always get buy-in in your meeting with the couple, for all these things. Okay, who is the wedding? Who in the wedding party will not be at the rehearsal? I found it, rather than you trying to track them down, you don't even have their contact information. Get someone in that wedding party and right in front of everybody. Oh, that gap where they're supposed to be standing. Will you get a hold of them before tomorrow and explain to them everything that I'm explaining now?
Really
and then they'll even go into the room where the wedding's going to be before, and they'll show them. I've seen that happen many times. That works very well. Because sometimes people are coming in out of town or can't find the church, this kind of a thing. I remember one time I did a wedding and I did the introduction, the welcome. And I said, I'd like to welcome you to the wedding of so-and-so and so-and-so. And there's a bit of, was pretty good. And a whole aisle of people got up and left. They're in the wrong church. They're in the wrong place. They were supposed to be at another wedding.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I'm up there. I'm glad that these people up here cannot see what's going on out there, because I'm watching this happen while I'm trying to keep my concentration. Yeah. Okay. Night of the usually it's an evening of rehearsal. You meet with the bride and groom. Ask, are there any changes? Can we jump up? Just see where it says photographer, videotaping expectations, obtain sign. And when I meet with the couple, I say, listen, who's your photographer? What are the guidelines that have been given? Photographers have this idea. I'm speaking very generally, some of them are exceptional. they're so good. But a lot of them have this idea that it's a photo op. The whole wedding is a photo op. It's for them to get pictures. Who cares about this vows and the ceremony? We're here to get pictures. Warning. I mean, that's, I'm serious. There's some, and they'll walk. I had one walk right while I'm doing the rings, walk right in front of me while I'm handing the ring. And, you know, I didn't, but I wanted to say, excuse me, you know, like, but they just think that it's there for them, you know? Anyway, so I have no bad feelings to photographers. So here's what I ask for their permission. I say, can I say if photography gets a little, you know, messy or they're interfering, do I have your permission to say it's a request of the bride and groom that no photographs be made except those by the official photographer? Because you get some cultures, and everybody has a smartphone these days. Sometimes they seem to have two of them each. You know what I mean? And they're just trying to get in on everything. And people are so trying to capture their moment, they're not even in the moment. It's just ridiculous sometimes. So you have to have something said in the bulletin usually.
Yeah.
And then if you need to reinforce it, it's a good thing. People are pretty good once you bring it to their attention. And they're from certain backgrounds. Okay. Rehearsal. Any changes? You can use your time by marking the floor where the wedding party will stand as you wait for people to arrive. Here, I usually do a talk through, then a walk through. I usually talk through, here's what's going to go. You're going to meet out there. The guys are going to meet out there. We're going to do I'm going to put a speed radar on you to see how fast you walk down the aisle. We're going to stand in these positions you've already identified. You know, just walk through the whole thing with them. And then we do the walkthrough and explain to participants like musicians, vocalists, scripture readers, how to get to their position. So if you're praying and then someone's singing, you say, well, I'm praying, go to this microphone, you know? So, and then try not to entertain too many ideas during the rehearsal as you're walking and talking through it. Yeah, we'll get into that, how I avoid family conflicts in these things and unwarranted and undesired suggestions as to what should take place. But if you end with your Q&A and then prayer, but I always say this, is it in there somewhere already? Oh yeah, I have met with the bride and groom and we've considered all kinds of options. What you're about to hear me talk through tonight is what we've settled on. That's an important statement, especially with some families. Yeah, that's an important, maybe circle. I almost missed it, but you can circle that. Yeah.
How long would a typical ceremony or a rehearsal last for you?
Once everybody's there, like I'll let them take 10 minutes to get the candelabras set up, the unity candle, and identify. I use the time to identify the spots on the floors and even to get some signatures done. I'll talk about that in a moment. I'll use it for that. But I don't know whether I've ever had one go much longer than 35 minutes.
Right. That's good.
Yeah. And I know, but I'll tell you why, because I use that line, what we go over tonight is what we set on. It takes a little bit more time ahead of the meeting to go into it with a clear order of service that they've settled on. But what you don't want to do is entertain suggestions during it. I've been at some of those situations. Thankfully, I wasn't the officiating clergy.
Pastor Keith, when you're doing a rehearsal, if there's a wedding planner involved,
Oh,
takes the lead down between the rehearsal, between the minister and the wedding and the planner?
Meet with them before. They will feel they need to show that they're earning their paycheck and they will interfere. You know, you need to be on the same page before you go into the rehearsal. You have to.
One of the ways I usually do with wedding planners, because they're more common now, is I love them to run the back of the house in the lobby. Can you set
Good
them
for
out
you.
at the appropriate time, and I give them
Good
a job
for you.
back there, and I'll take care of up front.
That's
And
totally right
that's
on.
how I delegate it.
Yeah, keep them busy doing the do's, the one time to do the don'ts. Yeah.
Because they
That's
want
good.
something to do.
Oh,
want
yeah,
something
they
to do
feel-
as well.
yeah. But the worst is if, no, that's what they wanted to do. And, you know, and it really doesn't matter, you know, they're just trying to show that they're doing their job sometimes. The walkthrough, you set the speed and speed. You want it's not that what I usually say when the first person is 1/3 way down the aisle, the next person can start. And as long as they're all walking at the same speed, it usually ends up good.
I also often say, thank you for keeping your opinions till the end, your questions to the end, and then we'll talk about them at that Q&A time, so that
Yep.
people aren't stopping the whole rehearsal process with ideas.
Yep.
Contributions.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. It's not good when it bogs down. It's not good for anybody. People start talking among themselves, and then you have a double job to try and get their attention back, All right. Here's some tips. Use late arrival times to mark positions to set up. Oh yeah. Here's one I learned years ago that I've done. Use as much signing of license and church records. Get that done at the rehearsal, except for the bride and groom signatures, unless the maid of honor and best man are also going to sign. But even then, there's usually two. They've simplified the documents, thankfully, over the years. But if it's just one, get it so it's just one document to be signed. That's the bottom line at the wedding. No one likes sitting there while people just keep signing documents and figuring out what they're going to do up there. Be super clear with the photographer, video, and camera people. The mic check, and know thy clergy number. That's a note for me. I don't have any. I'm phoning back trying to find Jan or Claudette or something. What is my clergy number? What's my clergy number? Yeah, I have it in the glove compartment of my car now, so I can run out and get it when I have to sign the form. Pre-ceremony, check for rings. First wedding I ever did, I said, okay, the best man. Yeah, I said, you got the rings? No, I left them in the fridge. Why leave in the fridge? Because I knew if I put them in the fridge when I went in for breakfast, I wouldn't forget them. So anyway, that was the conversation. Pastor and groom, nobody did forget them. And he had his breakfast. So pastor and groom, designate, know where you're going to, because you're often in different venues. You know this building well, but if you're elsewhere, you need to know where the groomsmen and the groom going to hang out and where's the bridal. And if you're an outdoor wedding and it's not set up for this, you have to create a place. You have to find a place where it's a little more private for them to meet. What are the ushers' responsibility? Oh yeah, and this whole thing about the bride side and the groom side, most people are happy now that if you get the bride's family up near the front with reserved seats and the groom's up there, after that, it doesn't really matter as much.
Which side is the bride side? Which side is the groom side?
Yeah, I go along with whatever the couple. I find different cultures do it different ways.
Okay.
Yeah. I think just trying to picture people standing there. I've done it both ways. If I ask the couple and I go along with whatever they say, because they often have real thoughts about that. Yeah. Okay. The ceremony. I've given you that. I've got a checklist for you, so you've got the elements. This is a sort of suggested order of service that I give to you next. All right, but here's where we're going to get into some of the things. I know I have it in here somewhere. Please don't say things like this. If anyone can show just cause why these two may not be joined together, let them speak now or forever hold their peace. Well, that goes back in the days where there was a circuit judge where they were arriving in town, doing a few weddings while they're there and moving on, and they didn't even know the people. You've done a marriage preparation course. You've had to go through, what? Can you imagine Jesus ever saying that at a wedding? It's supposed to be a celebration. Listen, if you haven't done your work before then, you know what I mean? It's nobody else's business. If they have a reason, let them hush up and forever hold their peace. Another thing to not say, and I said it already, who gives this woman to be married to this man? She's not a possession. She's a person. Here's what I do with that. I'll say, I have all It depends. Family dynamics, right? Divorces, all this sort of stuff. But if it's both families that are supportive there, I'll just do this. When bride comes down the aisle with whoever is accompanying her, I'll just say, have all the parents stand. Congregation may please be seated, parents stand. And I'll say, do you so-and-so and Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so commit yourselves to supporting Lala and Lulu as they begin their married life together?
You do that every wedding?
I don't use the word Lulu in every wedding.
But the parents stand and do that?
Yeah.
That's
Oh
really
yeah.
good.
I haven't done that for years. But who gives?
Right.
Yeah. It's just but then and again, it goes back to that meeting with the bride and groom. Her father abused her. He's not even going to be part of that day, and she doesn't want him. And that I've had, whether they come down the aisle alone, there's a way to sort of adapt to who are the significant people that are part of her life, and and then it's the groom too. The scriptures declare that a man will leave his father and mother and be united with his wife. Do you, as parents, commit yourselves as they begin their marriage, their life together, to praying for them? You can adapt to whoever is in the audience, and it just makes it a nice moment as opposed to, again, an archaic moment. Yeah, I think it's so important where they stand when they go up there. It's important if they cared enough about these people to have them in their wedding party, they of all people should be able to visually see the bride and groom during the ceremony. I don't know anybody does this where they have them stand across the front with their backs towards the congregation, the wedding party. Put them in a V shape or a U shape, bring them around and your best man and maid of honor are the closest next to the bride and groom, but bring them around. Know how big the congregation's going to be, and then let that determine the V or the circle. And that's where you put your tape down, where people know where to stand when they come up. And then so here's the ceremony. I just wanted to point out a few things on it. Some things can be included, some things not. Yeah, and I say if they're writing their own vows, it's good if you have a copy, because people are nervous and they lose, sometimes they try and memorize them. Most now I found have them written down with them. But sometimes you can supply them if if she's carrying enough things already, or he's, doesn't have a place, you can supply them with their copy. Gone are the days where I've had to they get stuck and I've had to help them out. Usually they have their copies these days. So that's a good way to do it. But make sure that they say something in there. I do 2 sets of vows. I do ones that I've written myself that sort of stay away from the archaic language. They're warm, but they have teeth, and it's not in sickness and in health, and it doesn't say it quite that way. They're warmer, but they're just as strong, and it ends on, I never say until death us do part, say as long as we both shall live, so it's not, it's life, not death that's being spoken of. And then at the end of that, that's when I'll say, and you have each written vows for one another. And Joey and Susie can turn to each other and share your vows now, and the guy goes first and then the woman after, this kind of a thing.
Could we get a copy of the vow you've written?
For sure.
Then I'll add a note in there.
Yeah.
Well, could you?
Yeah.
Yeah, because have a good brain, but it
That's
just
really
forgets
good
things.
copy.
Yeah.
How come it's Susie and Johnny now, not Lulu and Lala?
Lou,
Are they still together? Or?
no, Lululemon's together apparently. Rings. Yeah, here's the way I do the rings. I went. Sorry, Jeff. I didn't mean to move. I hold the book out. Let the best man do the struggling of getting them out of it, and tell the best man not to leave them in the boxes. To just have, I say, when you come to this part of the ceremony, put them on your little finger. That's usually what I do. And then they just put them in your book. And then you pull back the one that that she is going to, you pull back the larger of the two usually, and you hold it out, and you say a few words about the rings, and so they're picking them up off of your booklet that you hold out. You know, that's just an idea. It's worked
Can I add
well.
something there too?
Hmm.
I often find that asking them to start to put the ring on their finger, but stop at the knuckle and let the person hold
Totally.
it the rest of the way.
I say that
Nervous
every
and slowly.
rehearsal. Yeah. And it's so awkward in the ceremony to see someone struggling, trying to get the ring on, you know? So that's exactly what I say. You just get it on part way, and then as you pull your hand back, you pull it on the rest of the way. Yep. And then the pronouncement. Listen, the pronouncement is the most sacred moment of the ceremony. But again, preference I know, but do not say, by the power invested in me, I get so, you know, it has nothing to do with you, dude or dudess. It's a moment to declare the Lord's covenant happening here, you know? And so I guess I have a wording for that too.
That'd be good to send
Yeah,
along, too.
yeah, I do. And it's like, I love that. I love that moment. And I know it's COVID, but I go up and I place I said, you may join your hands together. I put my hand over their joined hands, and I have it memorized. So I should be able to say it by so and so and so and so. It's not Lululemon, but by the power invested in me. No, we have heard the vows which you have made today. And now in the presence of God, your family and your friends, I pronounce you, and I'll create him. I guess the grooms are on that side. Husband and wife, no longer two, but now one, to the glory of God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. Therefore, those whom God has joined together, let man never separate, you know? And it sort of just adds that they're married now. And then, of course, then you can kiss the bride. It just sort of happens right there.
That's great.
But signing of the register, you know, should have traveling music to do that. And again, if you've done most of the signing before, it doesn't take long. The presentation, the recessional's brisker. Yeah, and I found this, again, people don't know what to do. I found, at least in this building and maybe other buildings too, what I'll do, because you're standing up there, right? You're the wedding party, the bridegroom lead the way, best man, maid of honor, the wedding party, and then the little ring bearer, flower girl, if they're sitting with their parents, they go. I go right down to the front, and I just nod to the bride's parents first, and then the groom's parents. I get them going. As soon as you do that, you can go and do what I always forget to do. That's when you go and you pick up the mayor's license and make sure you find your clergy number in your glove compartment and you sign it. You know, that's yes, I put in there, sneak back in to obtain completed license. I always forget those things. I momentarily. Our tips for what could go wrong? Yeah. And if something goes wrong, it's a wonderful debate. Let's say it's a request of the bride and groom that. Oh yeah, fainting, candles that won't light, and no shows. These are very, very rare. But I have learned this. If someone faints, sometimes it's very, very hot in the building. People are wearing tight clothes and they're nervous. Not a good combination for and standing there, right? They're not blood circulation. We've had, I think the worst one I had was in Ottawa, Woodville, where you were there? He hit something on the way down.
There was a rear entrance, and he fell down the stairs in the back of the
Yeah,
thing and hit his head.
yeah. And usually the person is trying so hard to stay up, right? And so when they do go down, they're gone. They're not like going down gently. And this guy. So, but what did I do? That's the one I'm referring to here. That's when I thought of it when I was putting the notes together. And so what I did, I allow adequate time. No use to. It sort of goes into, you said, when do you go in to get that person away from wailing at the casket? You know, you give some time for it. It's the same thing with this. You stop. You don't try and proceed. You give some time. Oh, listen, if they're medical people, doctor, nurse, if you could just come and make sure that this person's all right, And, you just wait a little bit. If you try to move ahead without giving some time, all you're going to do is start sabotaging what you're trying to do next. People's minds will keep going, I wonder how they're doing. Give time. Give time. The wedding ceremony is not that long anyway. So it's all right. Get some time. Just make sure the person's all right. What I usually try to do is I find one person, if I know them. If not, it's hard. And I delegate it to them to take, can you, and I even publicly, can you, often it's my wife, Esther, can you make sure that person, my wife's a nurse, can you make sure that they're taken care of? And maybe it'd even be best just to have them, just to have a couple of guys here just help just carry them out. And usually it's the groomsmen, they're right there. This happens so rare. I only think it's happened twice for me. And that was the worst one in Ottawa, Woodvale. And so you get that, and then you just sort of do what's best for that moment and just say, and Lord, we ask you just to be with the caregivers and that person and bring help and healing. And listen, let's not let anything interfere with us just celebrating the day with this bride and this groom. And you say enough that you got the traction back and the attention back. But I've learned that don't try and resolve it too quickly. You'll take away from the rest of the wedding. Yeah, candles that won't light. We talked about that. No shows. I don't think I've had people in the wedding party not show up. I've never had a bride and groom not show up. Anybody? So, I think you just have to read the situation and go ahead and have a happy family reunion, with those who are there. But if a person in the wedding party doesn't show up or something like that, just focus on who is there. Try and not bring much attention to that, and better that people say, wasn't there supposed to be, there was 3 bridesmaids, only 2 grooms in, better that they go out that than you bring attention to it. If someone hasn't showed up and it's like 15, I find I have a sort of a rule of thumb, depending on the culture, because some have a high tolerance for lateness. That's a good way to put it. I find it's best to just after 15 minutes, you are the best one, the officiating clergy, to go out and say, just want you to know that everything's on track. Listen, I invite you to take a little time to get to know one another. There's a few little details that we're taking care of, and the wedding will start. The wedding we've come to support so and so and so. It's going to start shortly. Sometimes they haven't even at the church yet. You know what I mean, or the venue yet. So after 15 minutes, I think people need to be reassured. You need to set them at ease and give them that dignity of at least knowing that everything's all right, kind of a thing. Yeah. So live stream, your role at reception, usually you're asked to pray or something like that. I'm saying this mainly for Pastor Jessica, if you were teaching that next day or whatever, you could just leave after, or don't even attend, but hey, I find it's best explain it to them ahead of time. If you really, really know them well in their category of friendship, that may be different. You may, handle it differently, but I'm just trying to take people like Pastor, if you're in this heavy weekend of services, you've done what you uniquely can do. Other people can be at the reception. You've made your contribution, That's the way I look at it for myself. Yeah, vow renewal ceremonies, and those can be pretty special. But I'm just trying to think of other things that would relate to this. And then, great. And just like Pastor Stephen talked about having grief care kind of follow up, so it is good to invite them out to a married couple events or to Alpha, depending on where they're at in their spiritual journey, this kind of a thing. Good?
Fantastic.
That was fantastic.
We should book another session at some point doing house blessings.
Good idea.
How to do a house blessing.
Oh, yeah.
Big